right, today we have Dawson from the Ongoing Concept. This is so exciting. This is probably one of the weirdest bands we've ever interviewed. You probably get that a lot, Dawson. I mean, it is. You
Weird.
guys have like pretty much do every genre of music. Like, there's very few that I've like. Oh, I don't know if they've done that yet. There are
Oh,
very few genres. You guys have like pretty much done it all at this point.
I appreciate it. I feel like personally feel like we have hardly even scratched the surface of that. But if you
Oh
think
shit.
so, then that's awesome. And I'm not saying because I think we will scratch more and do more, but I don't really feel like we've done anything too crazy. So to hear that we are in that realm is very cool to hear. I like it.
Yeah, we interviewed a newer band recently called the Color 8, right, Cullen? That's who it was.
Yeah,
That was like
yeah.
they got like R&B and metal and hardcore and jazz, and like they kind
Mm.
of do a bunch of things too. But I don't know, like I think you guys are just up, right up there with the Color 8 in terms of just doing pretty much any genre of music that you can think of.
That's awesome. I love it.
Often in the same song, which is beautiful.
Even
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. We try. We try.
So we'll want to get into obviously a history of Ongoing Concept, new album, all that kind of stuff. But before, you were just talking a little bit before we started recording, where you said you had to clock out of work, and one of the things I thought about this the other day. So I saw Under Oath like a week or so ago, okay, and I was thinking to myself, let's say someone like Aaron Gillespie, for example, very household name in the like scene that we all are in and grew up in, household name. What if he just like wanted to get a regular type of job, like a 9 to 5 job? Like let's say Under Oath 100% broken up, never going to be a band again. Now he's got to go find a regular job. What does that look like for someone like Aaron Gillespie or somebody who, was in that like solid state world and had maybe some success? Like what does their resume look like? That I've always like, do they literally, even if they're like applying for, I don't know, like a graphic design job or something, do they include that for like Aaron Gillespie? Hey, I was Grammy nominated. I have been a part of a band that like what does a resume look like that? So I'm curious for you, Dawson, where Ongoing Concept, you guys had a number of albums, you're signed, you've done pretty cool things in the world. Obviously, you aren't to the level of like Under Oath, but you've done some really cool things. What does like a resume for a guy who is signed to a solid state band or who is a part of a band that was signed to solid state? What does like a resume even look like? What does like a job interview process look like? Do you talk about the fact that you were in a band like that? Like I'm just curious. I find that so interesting.
I mean, so the job I'm in right now, it's mental health. So I work for a company called Integrated Interventions, and we focus on one-on-one mentoring for young adults that struggle with, autism or schizophrenia or like not anything you can think of, like anorexia, transitioning. Like there's so many different things that we work with, and we have one-on-one training or one-on-one mentoring that we do with these young adults. And I'm not a mentor. I used to be for about 2 years, but now I do all their marketing and multimedia.
Mm.
But that's my main job. But when I signed up for it, I luckily actually got it through a friend who knew a friend that was in a local band here in our area. And I've known him a little bit in mutual respect. So he was a mentor, he was like the director of operations, and he hooked me up with the job. And now the company has grown. Like we started out with like 12 staff, and we're almost at like 150 staff, and
Oh
we're
wow.
spread out to Texas now and potentially moving to other states. Like we have grown a
Jeez.
lot in 4 years. It's crazy. But if I would have done the interview process normally, I would have probably never mentioned my band. Like I
Hmm.
don't think that it needed to be said. I if I was applying for maybe the multimedia part of the company, which I kind of just grew into because I didn't have that department at the time, and I was like, obviously it made sense.
Right.
Um,
That you like are were a part of like music videos that have X
yeah,
amount of views on YouTube or
yeah. I mean,
something. Like, would you say something like that?
I would if it made sense. Like if I was
Okay.
applying for the multimedia, it'd be like, I am really good at videos, or I've been. That's very narcissistic to say.
You are though.
I would say I have done music videos in the past. Here they are. If you think they're good, then awesome. And I would definitely show. But the thing is like I think for someone, I actually had this conversation. I feel like I've had this conversation like 4 times because you guys are not the first interview I've done. The first interview I've done this week, but last week I had 5. So
Oh shit.
I was like talking the elevator speech many times last week, and something that just kept coming up into the conversation was I feel like there's a issue with bands not finding a passion outside of music and
Mm.
it becoming so it enveloping their lives so much that they don't know their life if the band didn't exist. Like, so they wake up every morning feeling like, how do I stay relevant? How do I post something that's going to go potentially viral? Like every single thing is like your identity is your band. And I feel like that's very disastrous for your mental health, especially with anyone that's like 18 to 25, which is a
Mm.
very huge population of people in a young band that's getting big. Usually by the time they're 30, they have either made it or not made it. So 18 to 25 is incredibly important to find something besides music as your passion, I think. And no one does that. So this is all leading to something. I think that someone like Aaron Gillespie, I would hope that if he were to get a normal job after Under Oath, it would be something that he's passionate about that doesn't necessarily involve music. Now, it could be he just wants to work at a studio or be like a producer, this and that. But if he really wanted to be like outside of it, I would hope that he would have something that didn't have to put his credentials completely down, because I don't think that that should always be a factor. Like you shouldn't hire someone just because they have a Grammy under them. Like you
Right.
should hire them because they just are good at what they do in that position. So
Right.
I
But
don't know.
there are a lot of skill sets that you develop as a touring band
You do.
that I
Yeah.
think apply to a lot of other fields that have nothing to do with music.
Okay, then you're right. Then yes, I guess you could do it if it made sense. I don't know. I just feel like
Yeah.
music, me touring, and then me being like a mentor for student or for young adults, literally no correlation really at
Okay.
all. The only thing I could probably provide is that I understand like a little bit of the culture, because I traveled so much, and most of the people we get don't come from here. They come from all over the country. Um, and so I could say, hey, I've toured like a lot of these areas. I kind of know like the lingo or the culture of being at all these Walmarts throughout the years, and like kind of see, like, I don't know, because it's crazy. Like we get a lot of diverse people that come in,
Right.
and I'm able to kind of go with the flow a little bit and not kind of represent Idaho, which is very conservative. And I kind of have more of like a just whatever. I can kind of meld myself and gel
Yeah.
with the situation a little bit better. So I guess I could have said that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Very long-winded answer, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
it would seem to me that it would allow you to make yourself very available to just about anyone. Like as you talked about, you're talking about really deep, tough issues, right? With these
Mhm.
kids. So if you're going all over the country, you can't just live with one uh, viewpoint, because you're going to be coming in contact with all sorts of people, right? So
Yes.
you're definitely probably bringing in some of these same skills that you brought from, or that you gained while in the band, right?
Yeah. I I feel like the more I keep talking about it, the more I'm backtracking and thinking that, yeah, maybe it is good to have the credentials. I don't know. I just feel like it's hard because how do you I don't really know like how you don't sound like a pretentious piece of crap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it just makes you feel like you have an ego already established. So I
Right.
think what I'm getting at is if I were to put my credentials down of my band, I almost feel like that would be a red flag for an interviewee or interviewer to look at you and go, okay, so you have your band, that's awesome. I'm not gonna hire you because you see, I can already tell that you are like got an ego on you,
Right.
So I think you
But I
just have
think
to.
but if it was something where I definitely applied, right? Again,
Mhm.
if you are going into something like multimedia and you had a lot of experience with your band making music videos, then like that would be something that you would want to mention. And so yeah, it makes sense if it would apply to say something about it. But if it has nothing to do really with if being in a band has nothing to do with the job that you're applying for, then yeah, it probably makes no
I
sense to say
I
that.
think I think that Aaron Gillespie would approach it in the sense, I know we keep using Aaron as an example, but I feel like he would approach it in the sense that he would say something like, I have toured in a band for many years and I've developed these skills through that. He wouldn't list, we have X amount of albums, we've been signed to a major label or whatever, I have a Grammy. Like none of those are important. It's just important to know that he has developed skill from touring. Unless the Grammy thing would actually help him, like who knows? But you get what I'm saying, I guess.
Yeah, like that you were successful in what the work that you did, and that happens to be in a band, and you were very successful, and here's some of the successes that you had. And again, if that applied to the position that you're applying to, then it makes sense to throw it out.
Anyway, I feel like Mason only asked this question because he only got his job because he's Twitter famous. So,
well, there is part of that, but actually that actually is part of the reason is like I'm trying to like correlate my experience of applying to the job that I have now had for 3+ years. But that was similar because I was told, hey, you have 2 podcasts. Why aren't you putting this in your resume when you apply to jobs? Like that clearly is an important thing that you do. And employers are looking for people who start something up and do something that's really cool. And those 2 podcasts are a way to show that you are a self-starter. And so I was like, oh, I never considered the fact that I have a podcast as something that would help me get a job that would actually pay the bills.
Yeah, I totally get it. I think I tend to leave the band out of the equation a lot of the time because I don't like, I guess I'll put it this way. Like besides the person that hired me, like most of my coworkers didn't really even know I was in a band or didn't know like anything about me. My wife didn't even really know about me for a long time because we kind of met randomly and she didn't know I was in a band, and I liked it because she didn't know me as Dawson from the Ongoing Concept. She just knew me for
who you
Dawson.
Are.
And it took her a long time to actually figure out who I was. I mean, I told her, but she just didn't really do her research or anything. And so we started dating really before she really knew who I was, which is like amazing, like the best, because it felt so organic that way. And like her parents, finally, after being married for almost 2 years now, her parents just started finding out that I'm on the internet. Like it's so hilarious. I don't really.
How did that go down?
I don't know. I mean, they're coming to our show here in a week and a half.
They're not like turned off by the viciousness of it at times.
Oh no. I mean,
cool. That's cool.
I think they really appreciate just everything that I've done, like a more than the music itself. They might not actually like the music, but they really like the whatever I've created or the band has created over the past decade. And that really intrigues them. But it's just funny. I just don't really talk about the band a whole lot, but yet at the same time I do. It definitely comes up in conversation for a while. But when we did go on hiatus, I literally didn't bring it up ever. Like people would have to ask me, like, were you in a band called The Ongoing Concept? Be like, yes, I was. Yes, I am. But that was like, I just got very used to not bringing it up anymore because it just didn't seem relevant.
I don't know why this feels like a Hemingway book.
I don't.
Like the way you're talking about, yeah, that was a past life, as you'd take a drag of a cigarette or something.
Oh my gosh. Do you guys hear my dog barking in the background, by the way?
No, he's fine.
A little bit ago, but it's fine now.
He stops, yeah.
So anyway. one question before we actually talk about the Ongoing Concept.
Yeah.
One more question. Now you're now wife, when you first started dating and at some point it came up that you were in a band, what was that first moment where she realized, oh, you scream? Like that, it's one thing if you like grow up in that world and you like realize, oh, there's music out there that screams. But if somebody isn't like in that world, then they all of a sudden like they're talking to somebody who professionally can scream. I feel like that would be a weird thing to like find out about a person that you're dating.
I don't even know how I think she just, well, I don't even know. But yeah, it is weird. And I'm kind of a quiet guy, so I talk a lot, but I'm not very loud. Like my brother, for example, Kyle, who actually just mostly screams. I only scream here and there.
Yeah.
Kyle, though, he's so loud. Like, he's just so loud all the time that going from his bass, like, loudness of just talking to normal people, like, or everyday talking to, like, him screaming is not that far of a stretch. But for me, I'm usually, like, way down here. So to scream, it's like, whoa, holy crap, you're so quiet all the time. So I think that might have caught her off guard because I didn't really showcase any of that type of stuff until she saw us play a show for the first time, and then got to see me on stage doing that, and it's like, oh shit. But
Was
I don't know.
2022 the first time she saw you guys?
No, we played a weird one-off. It was our last show. It was 2018. It was a weird little thing. And it was like a Christmas show, and it was basically the last show we did until we did this last tour in 2022 November.
Wow.
But she did come out to that. That was actually before we started dating.
Mm.
So yeah, she knew about our band a little bit before we started dating, but it was mostly just this, relationship that was built off of just being a normal human being and not having anything music related to it.
That's the way to do it. All right,
Authentic.
let's actually talk about the band.
Yes.
Those were interesting questions for me, and you're probably like,
well,
really? Like, let's just talk about.
Not only were they interesting, but they caught me off guard because I have been answering a lot of the same questions, and so I feel like I didn't have my A game on that first one because I feel like I started backtracking everything I just said. That's okay.
You're totally fine. Yeah, the whole point of this podcast is to just make somebody disoriented, and then at the end of the day, we're just like hanging out. So
yeah, I love it. It's been fun.
All right, so let's talk about the beginning of the ongoing concept. You guys started out in 2009. And I feel like you guys started out at like kind of the worst point to like start in the music industry, especially as a heavy band. And especially to like get signed to Solid State during those years just seemed like that was not that you guys could have like chosen anything different. It was just like that was a tough time for the music industry in general, but certainly for a label like Solid State. But even more so, you guys, you knew that there was a huge metal scene in Idaho, and you're like, let's tap into that. So let's talk about those early origins of the ongoing concept and how you guys were just one of a million bands, metal bands in Idaho.
Were we one of a million bands? Or is that just being sarcastic?
It's definitely sarcasm.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because
I don't even know if I know one band from Idaho. You guys might be the most famous Idaho band of all time.
No, because I just saw a chart that someone made of like all the famous metalcore bands from every state, and we weren't on it. It was a band called We Were Giants.
Yeah.
But they're from Boise, and we're like 9 hours away from Boise.
Right,
like,
you guys are in the middle of nowhere.
We're actually not as much as people might think. So we're at the top of Idaho. We're 100 miles from Canada, and then only 40 miles away it's Spokane, Washington, which is a huge city.
Oh, okay.
And then 40 miles or 2.5 hours to the east was Missoula, Montana. So we're kind of like smack dab in the middle of stuff. It just feels like we're in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, Boise's like the huge city, the Mecca city in Idaho. And so I'm not surprised that a Boise band was on that chart because it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of metalcore. Oh, the other question I had too. Were you joking about was it because there's like, why was getting signed back then at that time bad? Was that because there were so many bands that were popping off at that same time? Or was
I think it was just the opposite. Like the music industry was changing from to streaming, like to that late early like 2010s, and then especially with like the whole like EMI bullshit with Tooth and Nail, and just like it was a tough time for Tooth and Nail and Solid State at that time, and you didn't like there very few bands made it out during that time, and in fact, a lot of the big bands that were big prior ended up either like quitting or going on hiatus or something. Or leaving Tooth and Nail in Solid State. So it's just like I think about the history of like Solid State during that like 2013 to 2016-ish time. Okay. That is a tough time for that label.
Yeah. That's kind of when like the whole bottom of the like the scene dropped out when everyone was like kind of becoming disenfranchised with the um uh not disenfranchised, disillusioned is the word as the word I meant. Disillusioned with like kind of like the cookie cutter-ish kind of sound, and that's why the outgoing concept, I think, was able to get some sort of a following, is because outgoing concept sounded way different than what everything else was that was coming out. I
Yeah.
listened to very little metal during that time, but Ongoing Concept was one of those bands I was like, I can get on board with this because this is not, another like For Today ripoff or something.
Yeah, I didn't really even notice, didn't even think about all that. I think we're one of the first bands to sign to Solid State after the EMI thing like was done,
Yeah.
and they were just independent at that point. So we might have lucked out on that part. Of course, we had no idea what we were doing. We were really young, and yeah, I mean, there was a lot of random stuff happening those years, and I think there was a huge push at that time too, where it was like these labels were throwing like 30 darts at the dartboard and hoping that one sticked. And so you look at a lot of those bands and their career was only like maybe 3 years, and then it was completely over. And they went from like 0 to 100 real fast, but then they just dropped off instantly because it was like that style was totally over, and unless they changed. So I don't know. I feel like I am trying to recollect what the question was.
Oh,
What
like just like the beginning and kind of origins.
the beginning?
Of,
Okay, yes, that's right.
yeah.
So the
How'd
beginning,
you guys get started and all of that?
we um we started playing live shows. We wrote an EP. We wrote that "What Is My Destiny" EP back in like 2009, and I think I was a senior in high school at the time, and we recorded that. And then we started doing a few shows. And the thing is, like, you're right, there wasn't a lot of other bands similar to us, but there was a couple bands. There was one band in particular called Empiric Victory, and they were a grade above us. Well, I guess yes, they were 1 year older than us, and they were kind of like the local metalcore like legend type bands. Like there wasn't enough to have any competition. So if there's just one of them, then they're the biggest one, and
Right.
everyone talks about them, right? So those were kind of like the people that we looked up to an extent, because they were like the ones doing it. So we would kind of get shows with them, and of course in Idaho, in especially Coeur d'Alene or Rathdrum or Hayden or Post Falls, all these little, it's like there's a ton of cities all really closely together in this area. No one has any venues here. So we would all go to Spokane, Washington and play all of our shows, which is about 40-minute drive. But it was weird because I've only played like maybe one or two shows here in Coeur d'Alene, and they've all been house shows because there's just no venues. We're very touristy up here. Like lots of famous people have summer houses here. Very, very touristy. And
Are you trying to
so
say that Leonardo DiCaprio is not coming out to an Ongoing Concept show in someone's basement?
oh man, he probably has a house here.
I'm
There's
sure
like
he does.
every time that you think that someone doesn't, they do. I was just watching a video. I don't know, popped up about how Wayne Gretzky has like a summer house out here and has like a summer boat. It's weird
He's
because
probably
we
your
have
next door
way.
neighbor.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's possible. We do live in a pretty cool little area, and there's a lot of wealthy people trickling around. But yeah, it's an interesting city. I'm not surprised that people come up here because it's so isolated from everything. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's not. So, anyways, we would
And it's
play a lot of
gorgeous.
shows. We play a lot of shows in Spokane, and I think the thing was I kind of felt like there's a problem with the local scene, in the sense that everyone is always thinking so locally, and they aren't thinking like worldly. And so that's why, like, it felt like, for me to even think of the idea of doing like a music video felt outlandish to a lot of people, or even getting like professional recordings done seemed outlandish, because everyone was like, well, that's going to cost a lot. You got to go like to a big studio in Seattle or this and that. And to me, I always felt like, no, you could do it yourself. It just make it sound better than the shit that you've been doing. Whatever studio you've been going to sucks. And so anyways, I just felt like we kind of were forced to have to think worldly, because to think about playing locally in Spokane forever felt very boring to me. And so that was kind of where we started doing our own music videos, and Arrows for Bullets was recorded, and then we did the music video for that. And I don't know, we just kept playing our shows and doing our thing. And I just never felt like we were trying to copy anybody. We just kind of did what we thought was right. And there wasn't really any sort of risk at all. Like, we could be as crazy as we wanted, because the worst that could happen is it doesn't go anywhere. And I don't know where I'm really going with this, because it is hard to kind of recollect what happened over a decade ago, but we just kind of did our own thing. We weren't trying to be anything we weren't, and we were doing a lot of DIY stuff. And I think that's kind of what caught the attention of Solid State.
Some of that DIY stuff that you were doing was not just the music, though. I mean, like, you guys had one of the coolest tour vans I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah. That, yes. Yeah. Forgot about that. Yeah. I sold that trailer and van and everything. So we don't have any of that anymore. But yeah, we were very much into that. That was a good time. I really miss that right now, especially when we're going on the road.
There's a great YouTube video out there. If listeners have not seen it, they should just go out, look up Ongoing Concept tour van and trailer, and you'll find some cool stuff.
Yes. Did it look like the inside of a log cabin?
I wish it did.
There was just like tons of like ingenuitive stuff.
It looked like a log cabin made out of particle board. Is really it wasn't logs, it was particle board. It was really, really ghetto, but it was awesome. And like, my dad's an electrician, and my brother Kyle is just very, very good at like construction and shit. So he hooked it all up. And I think that's kind of what is so cool about our band too, is like every person in our band is like really good at something beyond music. Like, Parker is like an amazing mechanic. No one would probably know that. Like what he does right now is he like is buying like old 1930s, 40s tractors and then refurbishing them and then selling them, like flipping them.
Hi, Cullen. Are you in the market?
I've got a 1939 Ford 9N that I'm working on right now.
Really? Wow.
I actually was working on it last night for like.
That's awesome. Maybe I should have had him do this interview. You guys would have probably hit it off. He does not like to talk, so he probably would have been like, "Yes, I have a reason to talk now."
I like that every guy in the Ongoing Concept was really good at one thing, and for you, Dawson, you're like, "Hey, if any of you guys need therapy, you know who to talk to."
Yes. Well, and that's kind of what drew me to getting that job. Was because I do have I feel like I do have a bit of a tendency to want to listen to people and give them guidance. And I felt like there was a lot of times on past tours where I partially was a therapist, and therapist is not a right word because I'm not licensed, but a shoulder to cry on, I guess you could say, with a lot of bands, because, you know, it's just it's emotional time. You're away for weeks at a time. You're not making a whole lot of money. Your voice goes out on stage, and then you're like depressed because you just sound like shit every night. Like, there's a lot of emotions going through the tour package with every single person. And there was multiple times throughout every tour we did where I felt like I was that person to give, you know, I don't know, something similar to what a therapist would do. So I've always been kind of drawn to being that guy, and I think that translated well with the company I work for now. And I don't know, I love that. I love that stuff. And I don't know, I think mental health is incredibly important, and it's cool that I get to do it for a living, you know, 40 hours a week, and have an awesome boss and make videos for them, work on their website. It's great. But yeah, going back
it's like being in a band helped you for that job.
Yeah, I know. I'm regretting the whole first, like, my answer was so poorly constructed now that
I just want to give you shit. That's
awesome. I love it. I love being wrong, because then it makes me reflect and think differently. So, but yeah, man, the origins of the Ongoing Concepts are always just a little bit like, well, that's the thing too, is we started really like before the Ongoing Concepts. We were just called Concept, And the only reason why we changed our name was because our URL for MySpace wouldn't allow just Concept because it was taken. So we're like, let's just do a play on words, call it the Ongoing Concept for a URL. And we were just like Dream Theater style music, like long 15-minute long songs. Because our favorite band, like when I was 15, 16 years old, was Dream Theater. And so all of our stuff prior to the actual Ongoing Concept, it was very inspired by those progressive, songs. And I think that's kind of what stems into why we are the way we are, like how we have different genres or different things in our music is because we have this like foundation of a band like Dream Theater that was just very all over the place. But then we heard August Burns Red for the first time, when I was like 17. I think that kind of just started the whole roller coaster of like listening to that type of music. And then from that point on, we just everything we wrote was much more heavy and shorter songs. And yeah, that's kind of where it all came from.
Was
I love
it
that.
then like a big like kind of dream come true when Solid State came knocking and it's like, wait, that's the label that August Burns Red is on?
It was it was probably more so for TJ because TJ grew up like TJ was much more into that music way before Kyle, Parker, and I were. TJ was getting those like Tooth and Nail DVDs all the time, and you probably remember those days where I don't even know how you got them, but he'd always be playing like the DVDs with like
you got them from LimeWire. That's how
I got them.
no, like legitimate Tooth and Nail DVDs.
Oh, well,
yeah,
yes, you could get a lot of stuff from LimeWire. Yeah,
I guess TJ is the actually the Integris one here.
Yeah,
because Cullen and I were totally ripping that shit off.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I remember those days. But I think he had some sort of subscription, maybe through Tooth and Nail or something like where you would get those DVDs. And then of course he was always listening to or watching, I think TVU or Radio U, which is a Ohio thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we here in Idaho, I think we got that channel on cable somewhere or something weird like that. And so I'd go over to his house and he'd be watching TVU. And all his favorite Under Oath and stuff. So he was much more excited about Solid State. I was a little bit guarded with it because I wanted to make sure that we had exhausted every avenue. Because I personally was a little worried that if we signed to Solid State, we would be put into that bubble of being called a Christian band just because we're on the label. I was 100% right on that because people assume that we're a Christian band, and it's freaking annoying. Like we do come from Christian backgrounds, but like never really written a song about God. We're just not those types of people.
I'd rather write songs about cover girls too. So
cover girls. Yeah. I don't even call it Cover Girl Live anymore. I say that we're playing Maybelline. That's the song we're playing.
Hey, Maybelline. Love it. Dude,
I don't think anyone's ever got that joke though. But
you got to keep doing that. That's
I do. It's just silly, but yeah, I think that Solid State's been great. But what's funny is like the day that we signed was to Solid State, I got an email from Epitaph and I got an email from Roadrunner Records wanting to know what our deal was, and I'm like, son of a bitch.
like your deal with Solid State, or your deal as in like why didn't you sign with them?
No, like they hit us up the day that we signed with Solid State, which meant if we wouldn't like, what I'm saying is that if we would have been patient, we probably would. There's a chance that we would have actually had some competition on other labels wanting us, but because the contract was done, we had signed it. Everything was set in stone. Then I get these two emails like the same day, ironically. And I'm like,
do you think that was coincidence, or is there some sort of insidery thing going on there?
I think it was just bad timing. I think it was just Adam from Solid State was just doing a better job of finding us before other labels found us, I guess.
What I think a lot of Ongoing Concept fans would say, or more specifically Tooth and Nail fans would say?
What?
That's a God thing.
Oh. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's a 21-year-old guy that just wants to get signed to be able to say that we're signed and not taking the time to really, think about. And I'm not saying that Solid State's bad. All that I'm saying is it's like if I was 31 back then, I would have done things way differently. I would have been very more patient. I would have asked a lot more questions. I would have definitely made sure some different variants were there and just done it a little bit more maturely. That's all. So
Yeah.
You
But-
better hope you're not saying Solid State's bad, because in 4 days you got an album coming out.
No, they're not bad. No, they're great. They're great. They're awesome. We've been with them for a decade almost now. So no, it has been. It's literally 10 years now. Yeah. No, they're great. But yes, we do have a new album, and it sucks.
Don't come on.
We
now.
love
Come
the
on,
albums that suck.
dude. Why do you say it sucks? Let's ask that question.
You guys have already been sarcastic enough that I'm just continuing on with it.
Oh, beautiful. I think that's just a beautiful way to put it. It does suck.
I mean, I think it's great. I've heard it probably like, and this is with every record, I've literally probably heard every song all the way through from the production side probably like 5,000 times, maybe even 6. I don't know. And so by that time, I'm so over these songs, and they've been sitting on the shelf for almost 2 years. We shot that last music video for Feel Again. We shot that 2 years ago. Like, that's how old
You're a whole new person.
Yeah, I mean, I still have the long hair. We reshot some stuff like 3 weeks ago, but not a lot. So what you're seeing in that video is a mixture of 2 years ago and 3 weeks ago, and we look exactly the same. But yes,
It's like continuity is there, man.
yeah, but yeah, I have changed a lot. We've all changed a lot. Like Kyle.
What did they say? Usually, like, your cells are replaced within
every
like
7
7
years.
years or something. So like, if you did that music video 2 years ago, like a third of you is brand new. So like, you could basically at this point, I think you could safely say, hey, this is a totally new Dawson. I don't even know who that Dawson is.
Doesn't your skin also like slowly like the flakes come off, and then you have like a brand new set of skin?
I think that including all the other cells in your body too. Like, I guess other than maybe like your nervous system, probably.
Your brain.
And your brain cells.
The only thing I'm going to say about that, and this will help all of our listeners sleep tonight, is that skin that you shed every year is in your bed.
It is, and
it's just there,
and also on your floor. And
Cullen, that's not the only thing that's in your guest bed, by the way, that I've left.
That doesn't surprise me.
Oh,
those flannel sheets were kind of like sticky. Couldn't get the sheets apart. It was pissing me off. I'll be honest.
Oh man, that's good.
I was wondering why my
dog
dog
were
kept
signing
going
up
up
for
and
this
licking up.
podcast interview. Were you?
I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I didn't know. I didn't know if I could swear or anything either. I always forget.
Hey, this is the HM podcast. We are going to talk about spilling our seed here.
Okay.
And you cannot fucking swear on this podcast.
Okay. Well, there we go. Well, I just have to ask. It's like you have a lot of different interviews, and sometimes you can get a feel, a vibe. And then since it is Solid State, you always got to keep in the back of your head. There are some more conservative people that want to talk to me, so I don't want to scare anyone, but.
Well,
you guys
we've scared them all away already for you.
That's right.
Perfect. Yeah, and you guys seem like a bunch of fucking pieces of shit, so I love it.
You nailed it, man.
Speaking of fucking pieces of shit, let's talk about the new album.
Sure.
So it's called Again, and at least at the time of this recording, we're 4 days out now from the release, so we're really, really close. It's been what, 6-ish years? Yeah, almost 6 years since the last album. I mean, with the ongoing concept, everything's going to be a little different with every album because you guys that's what you guys do. But is there anything in this like new album that you're like, yep, you weren't, even if you're an ongoing concept fan, you weren't going to expect this? What can we hear from that in terms of the unexpected sound, the unexpected thing in this new album?
Well, I think the biggest thing has already been revealed, and that is that TJ and Andy are also doing vocals on parts of this album, especially TJ, which has never been a thing for any of our albums, to have anyone other than Kyle and I. Actually, I think Andy did do a couple backup screams on the last album, but that is probably the coolest addition to this, is just being able to do those back and forth singing spots with TJ now. It's pretty cool. And then, I think that we're still keeping the traditional TOC roots, and sticking with that as much as we can. We really didn't want to let our fans down in that way, because we knew, nothing sucks more than being super excited for a band to come back to then have it seem like they literally have there's nothing like from the old times in the new music. It's like they've just completely changed, and they might as well have just changed the band name and did something, completely different.
Oh, wow, the
So
Ongoing Concept is an EDM band now. Wow,
yeah,
interesting. Didn't
well,
know that.
and that's the thing is like I really wanted to make sure we didn't do that completely. Now, I think some of these songs are really ongoing concepty in the sense that we do stuff that we've never done before. I would say there is more poppy elements to this record, but that's because we've just grown and matured a little bit. But I still think that we do have some songs on here that will really, bring that nostalgic ongoing concept vibe back. And people are going to, people that have been with us for a long time are going to really appreciate that. So I don't know.
I
Yeah.
I can definitely say, because I've been able to be blessed by being allowed to listen to the full record already. I can't say I've heard an album like this before. Um, I've never heard music like this.
Huh. Okay.
Um, it definitely has those ongoing concept roots, but man, when you talk about a new level of maturity, I mean that's what this album is.
That's awesome.
And I'm gonna go out on a limb. It's a pretty strong branch of a limb, and I'm gonna say that this is probably in my top 5 for the year so far.
Whoa,
It's
Cullen.
it's that good. I'm really digging it. I think the melodies are so fresh. I think that the way it grooves is super cool. It's not something again that I've heard in a heavy genre for a long time, if ever. Um, and I love the great mixture of singing and screaming. Um, there's so much more variety than there ever has been with an ongoing concept album, and I'm blown away by it, man. I
That's
kudos to
awesome.
you. Hats off.
Thanks.
I love it.
That's awesome to hear. Yeah, I have seen I for the first time ever, I have seen people saying like it's potentially album of the year in their opinion, which is something I've never seen before with any of our albums. So you saying that is awesome. I don't know what we did differently that we haven't done in our other records, but maybe it is just the maturity and maybe a little bit more of like I don't really know. Like we just wrote a record in our eyes, so there wasn't really anything special. But I think too, taking that break for a few years and like coming back and completely refreshed, I think might have helped. And I also think it could be too that we all had duties this time. Usually it was me doing 100% of almost everything. And now, Parker and TJ, they all have their own little studios too. And so they were able to kind of write on their own time. And I didn't have to do everything, myself. I think maybe just our workflow and maybe the way that we worked together this time was a lot more like mature and fresh. We've never really written a record this like positively before. It's usually always been a bit of a shit show. But this time around, I felt like we were just in such a higher level of creativity and we got so much more done because there was no bullshit this time. And I think that really helped these songs come together better.
It's almost, in my view, the earlier ongoing concept records felt like ADHD.
Yeah. Oh,
And,
yeah.
and sometimes the ADHD would fucking nail it on the head, right? And then every once in a while there'd be a song where you're just like, all right, there feels like there's not much direction here. I don't really know what the song is going to do next, and it almost leaves you on edge. But this album, I don't get that. I get like a fully fleshed out ADHD, like an ADHD that's more focused and it's almost
Like
like
ADHD that's on meds?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, like
God.
a medicated ADHD. That's how I would put it. Because every
Yeah.
single album, or every single song on this record is, if like I said, feels more mature, feels more fleshed out, feels more focused. I love it, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good way of putting it. So one thing I did was I really wanted to make sure, like I already said, I wanted to keep our roots in that kind of thrashy ADHD style. So I ended up going back into our old sessions and Pro Tools and stuff, going back on my old computer, and just going through all those sessions and trying to figure out where our headspace was at, when we were writing Saloon, where was our headspace when we were writing Handmade. And I think that helps to keep that like style still in like the root of our band. But the maturity, I think, just comes from almost 6 years now of not listening to heavy music. Like none of us listen to heavy music. I listen to like Corey Wong or Dirty Loops or like,
Oh man, I love
like
Corey Wong.
yeah, like that kind of style, like very groovy, just funky stuff. Like that's really what I listen to. I don't listen to heavy music, and the only time I ever do is when I'm just trying to see like where the mixing has progressed, like where are these songs hitting, on my monitors now, opposed to what they were like 2016. And of course, mixing, especially in the metalcore world, is always progressing. Like Corey Wong, for example, that stuff is just funky jazz. Like the mixes are just great because it's
Yes.
that it calls for just a simple mix. Metalcore or heavy music in general, it's always progressing and getting better. So the only time I ever listen to heavy music is when I want to see like what are the top producers like releasing right now. So yeah, that I think that might have helped.
I dig that. I can also tell that grooviness is there, and it's definitely influenced this record.
Yeah, definitely, because we love it. That's all we love that shit. It's awesome.
Yeah, Wolfpack too.
Wolfpack is awesome in the sense that like I like their business model. Like they're very interesting band, and I love bands like that. To me, bands that have like something that goes beyond the band itself is what I strive to be as the Ongoing Concept. Like I want to have that persona or that vibe where it's like its own like trademark, kind of like, I don't know. Another band similar to that is Emery.
Yeah,
a little bit different because Emery, they seem to like they have such a like core following of people, but they have like their podcasts and they have all these other ventures outside of their bands. And Wolfpack is similar too, in the sense it's like they have Corey Wong doing his own thing, who's then connected to Cody Fry, who's freaking awesome too. And then you have I think it's called the Fearless Flyers, is like another like side project band.
Yeah, and you got Nate Smith on drums doing like the driest, like most intricate like stuff on just like a tiny little trap kit. It's so good.
Yeah, I love that stuff. Like, and it's so cool because it kind of brings it all into like the Wolfpack like world, and they're all interconnected, and that's such a cool thing. So yes, Wolfpack is freaking sick. Love it. Dude. And they were the band that did that one thing on Spotify where I think they just did a song called ZZZZ or something, and it was just straight silence. Is that's the band, right? That's so genius. So awesome.
Nothing's groovier than silence, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I've heard somebody say, music is really in the silence. It's in the silence between the notes.
I definitely agree.
Every blues artist ever said that.
Yeah, it's it's the spaces in between that matter.
That's right. Sorry, my camera's fucked up.
Cullen, are we ready for top 5?
It is time for top 5, my man.
Top 5.
All right, top 5 most influential albums of Dawson. Here we go.
So I think I was thinking about this. Dream. So I'm gonna go back to like my roots. Oh, actually, no. I have to read one thing. I think. Okay, I need to remember what that album's called. Hold on one second. So I think the first album we could do is Bruce Hornsby's.
Oh, yeah. I'm already a fan. Man.
Spirit Trail album, which is not his most famous one, but it was the one that my dad showed me when I was younger, and I love it. So good. So yeah, Bruce Hornsby's Spirit Trail. The second one I think would be Dream Theater's Scenes from a Memory. Or no. Fuck. What's the one? 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. That one is sick because it's a double album and a lot of this stuff blends together. And that's where I got the idea. The very last song of one of their other albums, it starts 6. So what they did is that the last noise of the last song of each record would then become the first sound that you hear on the next
one.
And they did that with a few other albums, but the first time I heard that idea was on this album, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. Awesome record.
Yeah, for sure, man. Big fan.
The third one would be Messengers by August Burns Red. And I'm kind of just going in with like what really were milestone, and like you said, you wanted that, the milestones of like me as a person with music, and what really like changed my idea of songs. So
Do you
two,
think do you think that vocally you got some stuff from August Burns Red? Like when you do scream, I feel like I get a little bit of August
well,
Burns Red out of
who
it.
do you are you referring, like, because I don't scream as much as you might think. Kyle does a lot, mostly all
Right.
of it.
Right.
But are you talking about when I do my screams? Because we do have a different scream. Are you talking
Yeah.
about like on Melody, for example? That's all Melody again. The new, that's all me.
Yeah.
Kyle's not in that. So I do have a different scream.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I have never looked at Jake as a like up to Jake for vocals. Like I've never, to me, he has a very mid scream, and
Yeah.
I can picture him screaming a bit quiet, like not a whisper scream, but like more of that mid.
Sure.
You would be very surprised by how quiet it is type scream. If that makes sense. I think I was much more influenced by Bring Me the Horizon. Oh, that's actually probably the next one I should do.
I can totally see that. So both of them have like this like little bit of like voice that like kind of leads into the actual like screaming aspect of it of the sound. I don't know if you notice that. Maybe I'm just pulling this out of thin air.
Like there's a clean vocal that like that same note leads into it.
I don't really know how to explain it. Like there's like a little of like this melodic gut that comes out with like the very initial point of the scream, and both of them have it. You know, like Ollie Sykes and
Is it Jake?
And Jake have that both, right?
I don't hear it as much with Jake. You know who? Maybe you're thinking of what's his name from Devil Wears Prada?
Yeah, Mike Veronica.
He kind of has. Does he kind of have that same thing?
Mike does it as well, but Jake does it, especially like on those early records. You do catch it every once in a while.
Okay.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. I don't know.
So to me, I feel like Jake. The difference between Ollie Sykes and Jake is that I feel like Jake kind of is a distorted vocal, where Ollie Sykes is him singing with distortion, and that's what I do. Yeah. I when I scream, I'm usually like starting at a pitch and then pushing till I get the distortion from it.
Right.
Which I think is a different approach than some people.
Yeah. It's like the 90s grunge approach.
Would you say, Cullen, would you say someone like Christian Lingskog does that? I feel like that's why he's able to go from like literally on the same note, go from a clean sing to a scream.
I would say that's more of what Dawson does.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
More to a T. Yeah. Do you listen to Blindside at all?
No, I've never heard of them. I mean, I've heard of them. I've just never listened to them.
Oh man, go check out Christian Lingskog's vocals, man.
Okay. That dude is like next level. I mean, I would put him talent wise as like talented as someone like Chester Bennington. I mean, I think he's that talented.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome.
That dude is next level.
More so in my opinion, but yeah.
But his ability to like not just like sing and then scream, but like how he's able to make that almost seem like it's the same. Thing.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
I feel like Rory from Dayseeker does that too. He's able to kind of do that.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, man.
And that's just because we did tour together, and we both, you kind of get to see the insides and outs of how people do vocals, especially when you like sit in a band together doing vocal warm-ups. Like I did that with Andrew from Idola, and he's also in Dance Gavin Dance. But we did a tour with Idola. The guy has such a low voice, like really low voice. You wouldn't really expect that, but his singing is so high. So it was very interesting being in a van with him and hearing him do his warm-ups and me do my warm-ups, because he just has such a high singing voice, but his bass standard talking voice is so low, and it was just very interesting how you
sounds like you, Cullen.
It does sound like me. I have a very low voice, but I'm like a real
Whitney
high
Houston.
Tenor. Yeah, I can sing Whitney Houston like it's nothing.
Yeah, well, technically, like my brother has a lower voice and he can hit higher ranges than me. So if you have a lower bass voice, you tend to have a higher range.
Yeah, that's so strange to me because I can't sing low shit to save my life.
Yeah,
and I can't sing high shit.
That's funny.
All right, so are we on
four?
Four?
Yeah.
What was my third one?
August Burns Red.
August Burns Red. Okay, so my
Yep.
fourth one I think is I don't know if I will, because like there isn't really any other new albums that I can list. I feel like there's a Hell Believe Me I've Seen It, whatever that Bring Me the Horizon album is.
Yeah.
From 2010, and it's not because I necessarily like the songs. I like it because it was a huge change for me, in the sense that between Suicide Season and that album, they changed a lot in an interesting way, and it made me think, I like how this band is progressing. If you look at their first record, you look at their second record, and you look at this one, it looks like they're maturing and changing, but still staying the same, but changing. And sure enough, Sempiternal comes out later, and that was like the definitive one. So I'm going to put this there as a Hell Believe Me I've Seen It. I'm putting that one not because I necessarily like the album itself, because I think Sempiternal has got better songs, but I love that one because when I was young, like 19, 18, trying to figure out what we wanted to do as the ongoing concept, I looked up to that album as like a futuristic way that we could approach our next record. You know, like I want to progress and get better, but not completely change. So I like
You know what that
I think conceptually that album is super cool.
It is really cool. Yeah.
what that album was for me, that like, oh, you can change from album to album where it still like has this core sound, but also you're changing pretty dramatically, was when As Cities Burn went from Sun I Loved You at the Darkest to Come Now Sleep. Now, part of that is when you lose your screamer, that's going to change things. But the fact that they still can go just as heavy in Come Now Sleep as they did in Sun I Loved You at the Darkest, that to me blew my mind. And yet it, in a way, was like an indie band to a certain degree. Like it was really interesting they could go from that to that and it still be just as heavy.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to do that when you lose your vocalist. Is that the one? What is that one? What's the other album that As Cities Burn? Like,
and then Hell or High Water came after Come Now Sleep.
So I really like that record. That one's good. I think I like the mix of that one a lot. And as a mixing guy, I like it. And I also like that they did it themselves. And it sounds freaking awesome. So I've always wondered, the story behind that. Who was the mixing guy? Who did all that? I'm always very intrigued. I'm sure I could find out. I just haven't taken the time.
Sure.
Okay, so we're on the last one.
Final record, man.
Yep. So this would be Dirty Loops, Loopified, I believe it's called. From
Dirty Loop or Dirty Loop?
Dirty Loops with an S. Dirty Loops.
I am not familiar.
You've never heard of Dirty Loops? Oh my gosh!
I'm writing it down right now.
Loopified. Well, they just did it. They did a split with Corey Wong, which was the coolest thing. Like they just did it last year. But that's the thing, is that I've grown up on Dirty Loops since like 2014. Actually, Silent Planet. Mitch from Silent Planet was the one that showed me them, and I've always been obsessed with them. Like they are like literally my favorite band.
They're Swedish, Cullen.
What?
They're from Stockholm. Maybe there's a Blindside connection.
There might be.
Dude, I don't even think you know what to expect.
I probably don't. I'm very intrigued.
You should definitely watch. You should definitely watch. Watch all the ones that just look like great music videos. That's the best way to put it. Like they're anything but anything, honestly. But they did the music video with Corey Wong that they did called Turbo. I think, what's the song called? It's not called Turbo though. Because some of them don't have singing. You want the ones with singing. They're the best. Okay. It is Follow the Light, Dirty Loops and Corey Wong. Probably one of the coolest freaking songs you'll hear all year.
I think
and then just go down a deep dive. Like the song Rock You is freaking awesome. The song Work Shit Out is awesome. The song Next to You is awesome. And then
no, I've definitely heard this song before. Okay, cool.
Also, Corey Wong is based out of Minneapolis, Cullen.
Yeah, I watched him in Minneapolis. I asked if you wanted to come with.
Right. I remember you saying that.
Nah, I don't know.
You know what's crazy about Corey Wong is, like, I look at his socials and he has great socials, but like he sells out so much.
Everywhere.
But like what's crazy to me is he does like Corey Wong and the Wong Notes. It's like a freaking TV show, but it has like maybe 12,000 views on YouTube, and I'm like, that's so weird how he doesn't seem to have like a huge, like, I would expect something like that to have like 100, 200,000 views or something, but it's not getting that much. And then he'll do, and I'm like thinking, if he has so many musicians in that band, he has to pay them all. how much money is he making to be able to make like these little videos that are actually very high production videos? Corey Wong and the Wong Notes. Like, I don't understand how the financial part of that even makes sense.
I
Like,
almost wonder if there's like some like profit sharing going on, in terms of like as you were talking about like the Wolfpack canopy, like I almost feel like there's like some like communal like profit sharing they're doing of some sort.
they
Because
could
like,
be.
but also like if you go to a Corey Wong show, I mean they sell out like crazy.
How much are
like-
tickets?
They're usually relatively reasonable, but they're a little bit more expensive than like what you generally would see. So like instead of like a $15 show, you're probably looking at like a $25-$30 show.
Okay. And then they're playing like 2,000 cap rooms, 700
Yeah, roughly.
cap rooms? Okay,
Roughly. I
2,000.
mean, they can sell out a 2,000 cap room in just about any city in the country.
That's incredible. That's so cool. Yeah, he's awesome. I really like all of that. But Dirty Loops, yeah. Loopified is the 2014 record that I just got obsessed with. And I would say there's not really a whole lot of Dirty Loops that like inspires me to when we write music. Like, because the musicianship is so insane. Like I can't even do a fragment of the stuff that they do. But I think I just really enjoy I don't know what it is. It's something to do with just the sheer insanity of it all. But there is some stuff that the vocalist does that is like a little bit inspirational, I guess you could say too.
Cool. I dig it. I'm gonna be checking that out immediately. I do know I've heard that one song, Follow the Light, but I don't know if I've really explored the rest of it.
Yeah, there's
that
a lot
feels like the most ongoing concept list I could have imagined. Like a bunch of bands I've never heard except like August Burns Red and Dream Theater. And then it's just like everywhere. I mean, you get something like as heavy as August Burns Red, as something as weird as Dream Theater. You get Corey Wong, and you just get like everything right there.
My question is, where does the kind of like every once in a while you guys have like a little like country western kind of a vibe, right? With like banjo and all that good stuff. Where does that come from? Is that just Idaho?
Not really Idaho. I think I don't know. I've never really been into bluegrass or anything either. I think for a second really
obsessed with Mumford and Sons for
no. No, I've never really been a fan of them. I'm not really a big fan of like those types of bands. That just I don't know how to explain it. It's like the same thing with like Dave Matthews Band. I don't understand like the popularity of that band or Jack Johnson. I've never understood like why people like Jack Johnson. I think I mostly just like have a bit of a inner hatred to Jack Johnson because being me growing up in high school and going to like parties or whatever, and I don't know any cover music. I don't know how to play a single cover song. So you go to these parties, and of course everyone's like, Dawson, play something on guitar, because they all knew I was a musician, obviously. Well, I don't know any songs. So then I'm playing my own songs, and no one gives a flying fuck about that. Right. So then the motherfucker grabs the guitar and plays Banana Pancakes, and all of a sudden all the girls are like, oh my God. And I'm like, fuck. God.
I really messed this up.
I think that's why I just don't like Jack Johnson.
Cullen, this just inspired a new concept for the show. Okay, so Dawson, whenever we have somebody for the first time, we always ask them their top 5 most influential albums, which is why we're doing this right now. The second time we have somebody on a show, we will ask them their top 5 most guilty pleasure artists. Now, if we get somebody on for the third time, this is where it comes in, Cullen.
Yeah.
Top 5 most hated artists. The artists that you hate the most. So for you, Dawson, Jack Johnson would probably be either number 1 or in that top 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we're gonna get all these artists that come on and say, "Well, I don't really hate any art," because that's exactly what they say all the time, and it's like
no bullshit.
Definitely
there are artists that you hate.
Yeah.
Greta Van Fleet's starting to become one of them.
Oh my God! Thank you.
There we go.
I hate Greta Van Fleet.
I love that you have opinions. You actually have opinions. It's perfect.
Yeah. I just don't like. I just hate trust fund bands. Like they're so annoying.
Yeah.
Like I there's no way in hell a freaking Led Zeppelin like
cover
band can organically become popular. No, you have to have mommy and daddy's money to make that.
I think they're a plant.
They're just
not Robert Plant. I'm talking. They're just a plant.
I think that's a great idea, though. You should have people list their 5 most hated
Yeah.
bands.
Yeah, and we have to stand by it, Mason. Be like, no, you cannot cop out of
No,
this. And you
there are
can't
And
say
bands
the
you hate.
Wiggles or some crap.
It
like
could
that. You
it
have to
could even be
like,
like little local bands where they like screwed you over that one time in like 2004
yeah,
and
fuck
like
these hearts.
I think that you should also make it so that it can't be like the obvious ones. Like you can't say Nickelback, you
Right,
can't say
right.
Creed. It has to be like it has to make sense. Like
Yeah,
and it
because
has to be
those ones are reserved for our guilty pleasures. You can't use them
Right.
if you would use them for guilty pleasure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Nice.
Dude, thank you. You're a man. You're the man.
I am the man. Okay.
I appreciate it, dude. All right, we are now on to our plugs.
Sure.
What would you like to plug, Dawson?
Well, we have a record coming out on Friday. And you can get pre-orders, so vinyl. It's our first vinyl that we've ever done.
Woo!
Which is very exciting. And I'm hoping we'll do vinyls for other albums in the future, but for now, this is our first one. So I would definitely advise picking that up because they probably will run out. There's only 250 per variant. There's only 2 variants, so that's 500 copies. And I
Cullen,
don't know
if it's gonna be top 5 for you.
Yeah, I'm pre-ordering it.
Dawson, I do have to ask.
Yeah.
You guys did have a show last year. Okay.
Yep.
Is now with the new album coming out, can we expect anything else maybe in terms of seeing you guys live?
Well, we have those 3 shows next week, just a release shows in Spokane, Boise, and Portland. But we are doing that Lightworker Bloodlines tour. In
Great bill to be on, by the way. Those guys are awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. And is that coming to your guys' area?
Not to our area, unfortunately.
Where are you guys from?
I'm from South Dakota. Mason's in Colorado.
Oh, well, we're coming to Denver.
Yeah, so Mason, you might be, but you're moving,
Yeah.
aren't you?
In September.
Oh, September.
Yeah, we're playing Denver June 25th, I think, or June 26th.
I'll
Hell
be
yeah.
around. I'll come and hang out. If you want to get some coffee, we can go get some coffee. Whatever you want.
Mason,
Okay.
you got to grow out your beard so you guys can look like twins.
Oh,
It might be at my level by that time.
It could
see.
be. Yeah.
I don't know how fast you're.
Mason's
I'd
been
have to
growing
get
after 2
contacts
years,
too.
though.
Oh, yeah, I'm wearing contacts right now. So
Can you wear your glasses and then we can look exactly
Okay.
like
Yeah, and I'll wear the same toque or beanie or whatever. I call it toque because I'm Canadian, but
you. I mean, you have to if you're coming to Denver. You have to wear it. So
yeah,
It's
it'll
true.
probably snow. It'll probably have a crazy. Every time we play Denver, it's like this never happens, guys, and it's like the craziest snowstorm. I'm like, of course,
Landslides.
it never happens. Only when we show
June
up.
28th. I think I should be around.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Oh,
we got-
I think I leave the next day from Denver. So actually, that could work pretty well for me.
Cool.
Worked out
Yeah.
Perfect.
yeah, that'll be fun. And then we're going to audio feed through that little run.
Yeah.
So that will be fun. So yeah, look up for dates for that. And then we do have some things that we're lining up here, or just more slow stuff that I can't announce yet, but we are trying to do a couple more things towards the end of the year. But we are a band of married people these days, and my brother Kyle has 2 kids now, and it's just not how it used to be where we're going to be like touring the entire country for 6 weeks like
Sure.
it was back in the day. So I apologize to all the people on the East Coast that want us to go over there. I love playing the East Coast. I think it has our best crowds, but it's very hard to make that make sense for us right now, I guess, at least this year. So I don't know if we're going to be doing much of an East Coast thing until maybe next year. So
Sure.
we apologize, but unless you want to pay for the gas,
And
it's only-
childcare and
it's only 3 days, 3-day drive to get over there. So
luck.
all right. Anything else you'd like to plug?
I can't really think of anything. I mean, other than our album coming out and those little shows that we're doing next week, I think we're good. I mean, I want to do some more music videos. I don't know. We have a lot of like content ideas that we want to do this year, so maybe just keep on the lookout for that.
I heard there was a really great idea that you had for something else that you'd like to plug at the beginning.
What was it? Whoa, that thing. Oh yeah. Well, I wanted to plug because a lot of people don't know this about me. It's pretty cool. So my last name is Scholz, Dawson Scholz, Kyle Scholz, Parker Scholz. Well, there's a band called Boston, very old famous band, and Tom Scholz is the guitar player. And I
More
just
than a
found
feeling.
out that we're actually related to him. You
What?
know how you know how he and it's a crazy thing. He builds all of his own stuff. Like if you look at his amps, and like he was famous for like producing all of their records himself, like in this hotel or in his apartment, and he built like all the compressors and EQs and all the
Yeah.
shit for his guitars. Yeah, last name spelt the same, and then we did some digging, and yeah, he's like my like second uncle. So
No way.
pretty cool stuff. I
Have
hope
you
someday.
reached out to him?
I don't know how. No, he's just so high profile or whatever. I don't know.
Man.
I don't know the lineage of people that make it make sense. So I'm
I feel
gonna
like
try.
you got to reach out in some way and then be like, you know what? When you kick the bucket or when you can no longer, pluck a guitar string, I'm there for you, man.
Yeah, and I just think it's crazy because it's like I feel like he has this DIY sense to him, and it just makes so much sense that he's a Schultz as well,
Yeah.
and we're all connected. So cool story. And maybe I'll have him do a guest guitar solo on our next record.
I would love that.
wow.
When he's on his deathbed and you go and visit him, hopefully you do. When you go visit him, go ask him right before he's about to die, last words, ask him, why did Nirvana steal your More Than a Feeling riff for Nevermind?
Did
Specifically for Spirit Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Have you never seen this? Oh my god.
No.
Literally, Kurt Cobain will start playing More Than a Feeling, and then immediately, like, you don't even notice it. It just immediately is like, oh, that smells like Teen Spirit.
100%.
Okay. Huh. I'll have to look up is there a video that shows like a side by side kind of?
I don't know if there's a side by side, but let me see. God, I always feel like I fucked this part up. But
Allow
Nirvana
audio.
Smells Like Teen Spirit live. This is you're about to.
Are you gonna play it through here?
I think I can, and I think all it will do is.
You got to allow for audio though. Did you do that?
All right,
Jack, we think you're gonna love
I
it.
hear
Yeah,
it.
can
it's
you hear
cool.
this?
Yep.
Corn
Gotta turn it
chicken.
down slightly though.
You're
Corn
gonna have to
chicken.
watch an ad for a second.
Corn chicken.
How's that? Is that better?
Get out.
That's fine. Yeah.
My $6.99
that okay? All
popcorn
right.
chicken is back. Only at Jack in the Box.
I'll edit this part out. Are you ready for this? This is gonna blow your mind, Dawson.
Oh my gosh. He looks like he was. Oh,
You hear it?
You got it?
he fucked it up.
He did. He totally did.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that is definitely the chorus.
That's intentional.
Wait, he's singing it. Oh.
I think that's that tall bassist. I just forget his name.
Chris Novoselic.
Okay, so they're just having fun.
Yeah,
But
but
now
then
you
it
yeah.
literally it'll just naturally progress right into Smells Like Teen Spirit.
It's one chord difference.
I love it. I would totally do that type of shit Well, and if you go back to the very beginning of the video, he looks like he was doing Smoke on the Water. Like
He
listen to
was. He did it for just a moment there.
Yeah, he's just. I think he's just playing. Well, and like that.
No,
reminds-
it was Enter Sandman.
Oh yeah. There you go. It's still freaking funny.
It's funny because the entire crowd thinks it's Smells Like Teen Spirit, and then they go
That's
More Than a
amazing.
Feeling. It's great.
It's a good song.
Love it.
Awesome, dude. That's such a cool connection. I love that. That's I cannot wait to hear the Schultz
Yeah, I'll keep it.
lineage
I
playing
will,
together on an album.
keep you guys updated on if I ever get a hold of him.
Looking forward to it.
Love it. Dawson, thank you so much for chatting a little bit more about the origins and history of Ongoing Concept and the new album. We're really, really stoked. I think it's probably going to be the best Ongoing Concept album. I just love it so much already. And so anyway, thank you so much for chatting a little bit more about it, and hopefully we can stay in touch.
Awesome. Thanks guys so much. I hope you guys all have a good night, and I appreciate the fun times and the sarcasm. It's great.
Hell yeah, dude. It was fun.